At the Kauffman Foundation, we certainly understand the value of startup communities. There have been many books and studies and research projects publishing the virtues of understanding that. So today on Top of Mind, we sit down with co-founder Shane Reiser of the Startup Genome. I'm Tom Rue, and this is Top of Mind. Shane, thank you so much for being here today on Top of Mind.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Well, listen, let's start with the obvious question. Where did this notion that became Startup Genome, how did that originate?
Okay. So I was working at Startup Weekend a few years ago. I was one of the first employees at Startup Weekend.
You were the COO, weren't you?
COO, yeah. And I was able to put together kind of the early training program for their volunteers, for their organizers and their facilitators. I got to meet a lot of them. I just noticed that a lot of them were mapping their local startup communities, and they were using whiteboards or they were using Excel spreadsheets, and some of them were more comprehensive than others, and very few of them were making them available to other people in the community. And so the thought just hit me, wouldn't it be great if these folks had a tool they could use to more comprehensively and visually map their local community and then make it accessible to everybody else, all the entrepreneurs, investors, et cetera, could see it and benefit from it. So at the time when I was at Startup Weekend, I started making an MVP of it. Pretty terrible website. Trashed that a couple times. And then I met a guy named David Lerner, who's actually a co-founder with me. He's up in New York. He runs the entrepreneurship program at Columbia. And he was also mapping communities, just on his blog, with huge, ugly, terrible mind maps. He did one of the Boston community, the New York community, he did San Francisco. And it was just, if you can imagine the mind map with connectors,
right,
connecting all the employees and investors and all of that, it was just impossible to look at because it was like a 1,000,000 point view, or you'd zoom in and you had no idea what was going on.
Big old hairball, so to speak.
Yeah. But the response to his blog posts on these mind maps was incredible. So I reached out to him and I said, what about building something interactive with me? And we did it. So we launched something a year ago and started growing it. And then we relaunched a new site about a week ago, and I hope that next year you can ask me how it works.
Well, funny you should say that, because that is going to be my next question. So now you've got this kind of infrastructure, you've got something that's definitely beyond a minimally viable product. How do you engage, and how does the whole process work?
Okay, so we started by collecting as much data as we could from existing sources. AngelList, Crunchbase, Thomson Reuters threw up some data for us, Kauffman, because we knew there were some existing data sources out there that were good. Some of them need a lot of cleanup, but we took them in, we cleaned them up, so we pre-populated as much as we could. And then our philosophy is we can achieve better data integrity by having a combination of existing sources of data and also by building a network of volunteer curators that work and live in the cities in which they curate. So the way it works is you can apply to be a curator, Startup Genome. And it's really simple. I just get on a Skype call with you and find out who you are and find out if you actually are a community builder and care about your local community. And then we give you access to the map. You can curate everything. You can add stuff, approve and reject new submissions. And usually a little team forms in that community. It's not just one person. It's a small team. And it could be folks that run accelerator programs, folks that run Startup Weekends, Startup Digest curators, entrepreneurs themselves, sometimes investors, are curators. So they curate the data, they promote the map locally, they ask local founders to add themselves to the map, and they fill it out and then we launch it.
You'd mentioned to kind of pass the test, so to speak, it's a Skype session with you. We've understood that through our 1 Million Cups program, the importance of having community organizers that are, like we couldn't do it from the top down. You need people to own it in the community where it exists. Would I be right to assume that's the same thing that you found in rolling this out?
Yeah, absolutely. Our approach is very kind of open and free, and hey, this is your local map, use it however you'd like. We set some boundaries on, hey, this is the type of data we're looking for in the system, this is the type of data we're not interested in. You understand the difference? If so, good, because we do have some checks at the high level to make sure it's not just full of local restaurants, if you will, because we're interested in startups, which is another question. What is a startup? But yeah, all the data is exportable at any time. You can embed the map on local website, and you can just take the map, embed it right on there, so you can drop people to your local asset. And we have an API that's completely open, so you can suck all the data down. So the theory is this should be owned by the community.
So now you brought it up, and I was going to, if you didn't, what is a startup? Like, what specifically are we trying to, dial into as far as that means? What does it mean for a startup?
Everyone has a different definition of what a startup is. I kind of subscribe to the Steve Blank definition of a startup, and that's an organization of some sort that's searching for a repeatable, scalable business model. And then in theory, once they find that, they scale it, and they're not a startup anymore. But a looser term would be, we're trying to map startups that have the potential to grow quickly.
So that brings up another good point. That is, so any database, any effort like this is only as good as the curation effort that goes into loading it, keeping it clean, so to speak, data hygiene, if you will. Assuming that we're going to do that well, and you already are doing that great, what's the promise, for the value to extract out of the database? Like, okay, so now we're going to map all this. Mm-hmm. What are we getting out of it?
Yeah, can I start by addressing the how do we be good at curating the data?
Sure.
I'm sure people would wonder that. So we're trying to automate as much as we can. Curators are busy people, and the type of people who want to be curators are already involved, active, running events, running accelerator programs, that kind of stuff. So they can't just be curators full time. We don't expect them to be.
They're not being paid, right?
No, it's all volunteer stuff.
Okay.
So we're trying to automate as much as we can. So we're hooked into the Crunchbase API. We're building an AngelList integration, which we haven't launched yet, but we're about to. And we've also built a little like robot, if you will. I'm not sure what the right word is, but a little mechanism that tries to identify if a company is growing or dying. And so we're looking at web traffic. We're looking at social media data. Are they tweeting? When's the last time they tweeted? Facebook, that kind of stuff. LinkedIn, number of employees, LinkedIn profile, on a company's LinkedIn profile. We look at the founders' profiles to see what they're doing, if they've changed jobs. And we can hopefully attempt to, this hasn't been going for very long, but hopefully we can attempt to identify if a company's growing or dying. And we can mark if a company's dead, which is data that doesn't exist. Like if I asked you right now, could you go tell me 20 startups that died in Kansas City last year that never made it? You can't find anything right, because they go delete their Crunchbase profile. They'll delete it out of the system, it's gone, you can't track it.
Where do you see the value in that kind of data? Like, what's the value in knowing these 20 companies failed, in Kansas City or Cleveland or, St. Louis?
Sure. So I think there's value in understanding how your community is growing over time. I think cities, economic development departments, and cities are interested in cultivating their local entrepreneurship community. They understand that small businesses and startups are, I think this was a Kaufman study, responsible for all net new job growth. And if that's true, then they're asking questions, how do we get more people to start companies in Kansas City or whatever city? And in order to understand that, they have to know what's already happening around here so they can identify what we're not doing, so they can try new things. What are the gaps? What are other cities doing that we could try? Are there events that we could start? Are there programs that we could try that might work here? What's the talent look like here? Is there a lack of talent in some areas? How do we get people to come here with that talent? Are people leaving? So our goal long term, not just to map, but is to take all that data, throw it up against a bunch of other stuff, socioeconomic data, whatever, compare it to cities, and then look at one city and try to identify what those gaps are and actually prescribe stuff. And then help that city or organization or whatever is doing that program figure out if it worked over time.
So, I want to ask, for the benefit of those that watch Top of Mind, how can they engage with Startup Genome and get involved?
Sure. Well, the obvious way would be to go check out your local city's map. Or if you think about your community at a state or country level, Startup Genome also works at any kind of top level or bottom level. So go on our homepage and search for your city or your state and just check it out and use it. If you're some kind of leader in the community, I would encourage you to apply to be a curator. So on the top, there's a link for curators. Go check it out. It tells you about the process. It's not actually a huge time commitment. You can import data from spreadsheets and that kind of stuff. You can also recommend curators. So my call to action to you would be go check out your local city's map. And if you know somebody or you are interested in being curated, then apply or recommend it to them.
Shane, thank you so much for joining me today on Top of Mind. Hopefully viewers out there will find a way to get engaged and really bring this to your community. As I said earlier in this interview, the value of this is only going to be as much as we can get people to enter data into it. But rest assured, as we do with your partnership and the research group here, hopefully we'll be able to publish reams of interesting facts and research that'll help encourage these entrepreneurial communities around the world. And thank you for being a big part of that.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.